Play something from the 9/11 Commission and talk about a file, part of a file in the Operation Encore's edits. It's really important. Um, and in this video, it's from the like I said, it's from the 9/11 Commission. And listen to what Executive Director Philip Zelikow has to say regarding two individuals, Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, where they stood when they arrived inside the United States. Here's what he had to say.
Hazmi and Mihdhar spent a few days in Bangkok and then headed for Los Angeles, where they would become the first 9/11 operatives to enter the United States on January 15th, 2000. I'd now like to turn to Dieter Snell, who, by the way, was one of the federal prosecutors who prosecuted Ramzi Youssef in the Southern District of New York. Dieter?
While the Hamburg operatives were just joining the 9/11 plot, Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Mihdhar were already living in the United States, having arrived in Los Angeles on January 15, 2000. It has not been established where they stayed during the first 2 weeks after their arrival. They appear to have frequented the King Fahd Mosque in Culver City, possibly staying in an apartment nearby. Much remains unknown about their activities and associates while in Los Angeles, and our investigation of this period of the conspiracy is continuing.
Now, that was 2003 when he said this. And this information was around back then because the PENTTBOM investigation, the original FBI investigation into 9/11, had this information I'm going to share with you. But it was later declassified under the Operation Encore files, Executive Order 140410. And what we're going to read is where they actually stood for the first 2 weeks. This was known to Dieter Snell. This was known to the Executive Director, Philip Zelikow, because it was known to the FBI where they stood. And here it is. All right. Now I'm going to make myself disappear for just for a second so you could see this in whole. Now there's a person named Benamarine. Now this was I think it was Tunisian cab driver, Khalid Benamarine. That video you just saw is coming from Pump It Out channel on YouTube. He's not active anymore. Jeff Hill. He was an old G when it comes to 9/11 research. I knew about him for years. And the last video he did, which was 7 years ago, is named Who is Khalid Benamarine? And I never heard of him, but he's a key figure because Khalid Benamarine is a cab driver that picked up Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi from the Los Angeles International Airport. This is from the Operation Encore file. Benamarine advised that he had heard that the two Saudi males had arrived to Los Angeles International Airport and were taken to an apartment that already had been rented for them. So in other words, the person that told Khalid Benamarine that there were two Saudis arriving at the LAX airport was coming from the Imam of the King Fahd Mosque, Fahad al-Tamari. And how do we know this? Well, through my reading, if you please watch the other videos regarding King Fahad al-Tamari having a phone call from Bangkok, from Thailand, from a person named Khalid, who's Tawfiq bin Attash, who's currently being held at Guantanamo for the crimes of 9/11, allegedly. And he's the one who told Fahad al-Tamari, expect two brothers, not paternal, but two Islamic brothers. And they would be Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi. He didn't say with a phone, but they arrived inside the United States on January 5th of 2000. Fahad al-Tamari knew Khalid Benamarine because he's a parishioner at the King Fahd Mosque, knew he was a cab driver, and said, I want you to pick up these two males from Saudi Arabia. He didn't tell them their names and said to bring them here. So the apartment was identified by Khalid Benamarine as having been at the Avalon Westside Terrace Apartments at 3636 Sepulveda Boulevard in Los Angeles, California. Benamarine later stated that the two Saudi males stayed at the Hilton Hotel on Century Boulevard near LAX upon their arrival into Los Angeles prior to moving into that apartment. Now, what they did was they used fake names. This was under, again, that video, Who is Khalid Benamarine, and used two names, Saeed Abdullah and Saeed Abdallah, right? The credit card payment on file is redacted. And it's because it was paid for by none other than Fahad al-Tamari, a high-ranking Saudi official. Here's page 2. Furthermore, records from the Avalon Westside Terrace apartments were obtained for rentals in the name of Khalid al-Mihdhar. A review of these records determined that al-Mihdhar rented 2 apartments at approximately the same time during the summer of 2001. Specifically, al-Mihdhar rented apartment blank from July 3rd, 2001 to August 15, 2001, and also rented apartment blank from July 10, 2001 to August 14, 2001. Records also indicated that al-Mihdhar rented apartment blank from December of 27, 2001 to February 13, 2002, and apartment blank from April 18, 2002 to February 1st, 2003. It is currently unknown why al-Mihdhar holds 2 simultaneous apartment rentals at Avalon Westside Terrace during the summer of 2001, but you and I both know why he did this. So he could receive Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi. Now, why did he hold on to these apartments until the summer of 2001? It's because of the simple fact that he was not sure if Omar al-Bayoumi was going to basically get an apartment for them in San Diego. So he kept these apartments. Now, could he have had these apartments for other hijackers that came in the United States? I doubt it. Could it have been the 2 people who were tasked to be the eyes and ears of the overall supervising Saudi official, Muwassid al-Jarrah? The 2 Saudis were Mutiab al-Saderi and Saidal al-Adhan. They were from Saudi Arabia. 2 men who traveled to Washington, D.C. and supervised Omar al-Bayoumi's contacts for Flight 77. Who was on Flight 77? Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi. Now, the reason why I read these files to you is because, one, it shows that the FBI, under pressure from the State Department, the Bush administration, in continuing to cover up for Saudi Arabia in their roles for the 9/11 attacks. Now, their roles are providing logistical and financial support to 2 known al-Qaeda operatives. Remember, Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi were labeled al-Qaeda by Saudi Arabia to the CIA and told them about al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi, told them about their profiles. Now, if that's true, that means Saudi Arabia is complicit with the 9/11 attacks because they knew they were here inside the United States and said nothing to any official anywhere, and working with the CIA, providing support to these 2 men. Now, CIA knew these were al-Qaeda operatives. They didn't tell the Department of Justice. Why? Because what the CIA and Saudi government were doing was illegal. Supervising 2 known al-Qaeda operatives inside the United States, because the CIA is not allowed to run operations, clandestine operations inside the United States. But they do it anyway. So, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Question is, why did the 9/11 Commission provide false information regarding these 2 men? Was it because they wanted to cover up for the CIA and Saudi officials? Most likely the case. Why did the FBI go along with it? All right, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. See you next video.